So you've taken out our cordless drill. There's a few things that you should know about this tool before you get started. First and foremost, safety equipment. Always wear your safety glasses whenever you're using a drill and basically any tool that has a spinning part or a moving part, wear your safety glasses. This cordless drill has a keyless chuck, which means you don't need a chuck key to change bits on it. To put a bit into a keyless chuck, simply grab your bit, put it into the chuck, and spin the dial onto it. Hold onto the drill with one hand, with the other crank down on the chuck, and it is locked in place. Because, see the way the bit looks like it's bent? The bit is straight, but what that's telling you is that that bit is not centered on the chuck. When you see it wobbling like that, so we'll loosen it off, you grab onto the drill, turn it back to the right, make sure that the bit is centered into the drill, lock it down, take a look at it. That bit is now centered. For a larger bit, it's the same technique. Open the chuck all the way up, place the bit in, spin it to the left to crank down on it, and then give it a really good tighten. That bit is set to go. The other thing to be aware of, the most common mistake that students will often make with a drill is there is a forward on the drill. Press the lever on the side of the drill with the arrow pointing forward for drilling. If you're trying to remove something, on the other side of the drill, you press the lever with the arrow pointing backwards if you wanted to remove a screw. The other thing to be totally aware of, the most important thing with this drill, is it has the 2-speed function. In the number 1 position, the drill has a lower speed, higher torque setting. That is what you would use for a larger bit. If you're using a smaller bit, you'll want to just put it into the number 2, higher speed, lower torque position. The other thing to be aware of, if you're using a fastener and you've over-torqued the material if you've over-torqued the fastener into the material, you can adjust the level of torque by the gear setting here, from 0 all the way up to 24. And then when you're drilling, you want to go right into the drill position. Just with experimenting with the drill, with doing some tests, you can figure out at which torque setting this drill will drive a fastener into the material without over-sinking it. If you need to use a large drill bit to drill your hole, the settings that you would need to be aware of would be to switch the drill from the number 1 high-speed position to the number 2 higher torque position, and make sure that the gear is set all the way to the drilling position. Again, with a larger bit, you would still mount it the same way any other bit. Place the bit into the chuck, the keyless chuck, and then just crank down on it, and that is set and ready to drill. If you're ever going to be driving a screw or a fastener close to the edge of your material, you'll want to drill a pilot hole first to prevent the material from splitting. When you're about to drill into your material, clamp it down. Particularly if you're using a larger bit, the torque on the drill can pull the material out of your hands if you just try to hold onto it with one hand and drill with the other. Taking a bit that is slightly smaller than the fastener you want to use, make sure that it's centered, locked down. If you're going to be putting a fastener at the very edge of your material, drill through for your pilot hole. You're now set for your fastener. The other primary use for a cordless drill, other than drilling, is to use bits with it for driving in fasteners of different types. If you are using a bit, a driver bit, like this ratchet bit for instance, you would mount the bit the same way you would with a drill bit. You would place it in, center it, crank down on it, test it. Looks like it's in centered nicely. If you're trying to drive a screw with this ratchet bit or any other type of ratchet bit into some wood and you're having a hard time going through, you would need to adjust the gear setting right up to the top. If you are using a ratchet driver or any type of driver and you find that you're over torquing the screw or the fastener into your material, you can turn down the level of torque on this drill by simply dialing it back to the 0 position all the way up to 25. So it'll just be doing a number of different tests to figure out what level of torque you want on your driver. You can also slow it down, reduce the amount of torque by switching to the number 1 position rather than the number 2 higher speed position. To mount a bit into the drill, into the cordless, hold onto the drill with one hand and with the other, grab the chuck. It's a keyless chuck, and to put a bit into it, grab onto the chuck, spin it to the right to open it up, put the bit in, and then simply tighten it up by holding on and cranking down, and you've now put a bit into the chuck. When you've placed a small bit in the chuck, you want to make sure that the bit is straight, is mounted into it, it's centered properly. If you turn the bit on and the bit appears to be made out of rubber, that means it's not centered. When the bit is centered and you spin it and you turn it on, you engage it, it looks perfectly straight. So the 2 speeds are the primary thing to be aware of. The second thing that's the most important, mistake that students often make, when you are trying to drill, you have to make sure that the drill is set in the forward position. There is this toggle on the sides. Pushing it in with the arrow pointing forward, the drill is moving in the forward direction for drilling a hole. If you're trying to remove something, you're going to put the drill into the reverse position. You cannot drill with the drill in the reverse position. You'll have a hard time getting a hole to appear in your material. That is the basic operation of our cordless drill. So remember, wear your safety glasses, keep your hair tied back, nothing dangling that can get caught up in the drill. So happy drilling, stay safe.